Stream. Good evening, everybody. It's 9:30 on the East Coast, 6:30 on the West Coast, and it's time for your weekly Calamity Jane live stream. James, how you going? How you doing?
I I'm doing great.
I
That was
was
almost
so
that
close.
was
It
almost
was.
a perfect opening
Oh,
to that last. I was rooting for you too. It's like going,
I
man.
know.
Uh,
It's just one of these
I
days
was
I'm gonna
rooting for
nail
you.
it, and there's like I have a bottle of champagne under my desk, and I'm never gonna open it until I get the intro to one of these live streams right. And it'll be like so finely aged before I pull it off too, because
I just like to give you. I just like to give you.
it was like
I
one
just
word
like to give you a
away.
little bit. You've done plenty of fine openings. But let's pretend that you keep messing up every week.
Okay,
That way
okay, yeah.
it brings people to come back to see how you
That's
mess
right.
up
How
on
is he gonna
stream.
mess up next week? That's
Yeah. See,
everybody. That's the reason.
it's a fun game
Yeah,
of
that's why you
sorts.
need to come back. Not for our scintillating discussion of how a
Yeah.
cartoon is
No, the
made,
last thing you want to do
but
is
how am I gonna
rock.
screw up the intro to the stream this week?
Well, if anything, you're leading up to me screwing up doing 3D work today, so
Well,
it's all good.
I
So
feel
it's
like I'm
fine.
taking the tension out. Like I'm
Yeah,
relieving the
yeah. You're
tension. So
just
there's no stakes now. So you have no
yeah.
reason to be, nothing to worry about.
Ease viewers into me doing terrible manipulation of 3D objects for fun for the next half hour while we're trying to make a cartoon.
You got to
It's
learn to
great.
walk before you can run. I
Oh my
mean,
gosh, I'm not even walking yet. I don't know where. I don't know what I'm at. I'm on the ground,
you know,
lying in
I,
a
I,
cave.
I want us to like almost mark this occasion because I feel like 6 months from now, a year from now, we're gonna come back and we're gonna be able to point to this, and you're gonna be able to just like toss out this highly complex 3D model without even thinking about it. And
Complex.
I just want to remember this moment where you're
If
talking
only
about
you
how you
were.
can barely do it.
No, but you know what's good about when we started doing this stream, I think part of the intention, at least for me, and Eric, you can speak to this too, is uh, I don't mind doing something messy and something ugly because creating a art or creating any creative endeavor is never perfect. It's funny because I go on YouTube to study videos and stuff like that, or just watch other artists work. And usually, I would say 90 to 95% of the time, I always see perfection, like their best stuff, which makes sense.
Right.
You don't watch NBC and watch sausage being made of how Parks and Rec was made. But if you're really into it, then you want to watch that, right? But I think for our stream, for us, it's like more of a process stream where we work and we just talk about random stuff on our mind for half hour each week, and it keeps us kind of on point every week. This is a process stream. It's not meant to be perfection. The perfection will be the final product when we're done with the show. We release it. But anyways, I don't want to. I'm sure you
No,
want to.
I actually agree with you. It's one of the reasons why I like our format that we've come up with. Is you're right. When you do watch those how-to videos on YouTube or wherever, or you listen to podcasts or what have you, it's very much coming from people who have already finished what they're going through, and it's almost discussing it in hindsight, right?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but I'm not trying to like toot our own horn here or build this up to something like holier than thou or whatever. But because we're actually on this journey with the audience, I think it's a lot more fun too. And I also think there's value in what we're doing from the standpoint of archive, because I think
Yeah.
anybody who gets into it or joins our little journey that we're on, they can go back and watch the older episodes and really get a sense of the process that went into it, right? We're not like cherry picking fun beats for the DVD extras, right? Like
No.
all, it's all of the warts, all of the
Yeah.
gaffes, all of the growing pains and the discovery and the creation in real time, which I think is really cool. And I actually I don't see it a lot, and maybe it's just because I'm not looking in the right place.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
yeah, I don't see this kind of stream on a regular basis.
Yeah. I mean, and again, we do have our own bubble bias because I mean, when I'm looking on YouTube, YouTube's usually my go-to place to look for inspiration and or technique, but most of the time it's perfection, which is awesome. I mean, it's amazing what the artists can do and teachers can do. But yeah, for us, I think it will be. it will be fun a year from now when I see my 3D models marginally improved by maybe 5%, or even funnier if they actually regress to 3% and it
No,
gets worse.
no.
That'd be even funnier in a strange
No,
way. But I'm okay
but
with that.
you know,
I don't
yeah, I
care.
mean, like, right, you figure a lot of stuff out. You learn the rules, and I mean, it's the same thing that happens with anything. Like, there's this weird. I feel like learning any new skill, especially as an adult, um, there's this weird curve where you learn a lot of stuff really fast because you don't know the
Yeah.
rules, you don't know the boundaries, you don't know the best practices. And so there's this really burst of like, oh my God, the sky is the limit. But then as
Yeah.
you start to learn the boundaries and you start to learn the best practices, you plateau. And there's actually a little bit of a regression
Hmm.
because
Yeah.
you've got all these voices in your heads now saying, no, it's not done this way, it's done this way. Or no, this isn't the best way to do it, it's this way. And you
Ghostbusting
actually,
voices. Yeah.
yeah, and you actually get stuck, right? And
Yeah.
there's this plateau. If you're lucky, you just plateau, right?
Hmm.
But I feel like most of us, we actually get a little bit worse for a while
Yeah.
until we integrate and synthesize all the rules and best practices and realize that there are more guidelines than
Yeah.
strict draconian dogma that you have to follow, at which point then you start going back up again, but you have to go through over that like enough knowledge to be dangerous hump before you can start growing
Yeah.
again, right?
Yeah. 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 The whole. I mean, in a nutshell, You're learning all the rules before you can learn to break them. Because if you're breaking rules, you're not learning anything.
Right,
But
absolutely, absolutely. And so there's almost there's a beneficial quality to that plateau, right?
mm,
It's almost like your brain needs to fill the space, or just digest everything that you're learning, and then you can really just shoot to the moon. I mean,
yeah. Um, with all that being said, I'll take my mug off the screen so that way you could hang out and I could actually put something more visually interesting or terrible on the screen.
sure.
Uh, uh, I'm trying to think here. Okay, so let me go to share screen here. One of our many running jokes that we sometimes use and then we
But this
don't.
one, I feel like I've
Yeah.
mastered. I've mastered
Yes, you
this
mastered
one.
this. There's
Yeah,
not even
yeah.
yeah, there's no drama here anymore.
Old dogs can learn new tricks, but it does take like a year's worth of streams to do it.
Yeah. Well, we last left off from last week. I did a couple of sketches with Tinsel, with the
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
motorbike, and I kind of started blocking her out a little bit in 3D space. So here's the funny thing, Eric. I have a surprise
Uh
for
oh.
tonight.
Uh
Has
oh.
nothing to do with Tinsel though, and I don't want to go off the beaten path, but
That's fine.
I I did work on another prop that belongs to Mitchell's bar. And guess what
Okay.
it is?
Are we going to be seeing a famous car? Is that what we're?
Perhaps, yes. Well, okay. First of all, it doesn't look. It's awful, but it's better than it's what we got. But yes, I
Okay.
can show you a work in progress of a car prop in the bar. Do you want to see that?
I'm so excited. You have no
Okay.
idea.
Okay. Well, all right. Well, let me flip over to that. So there we go.
Oh my God, Sam Raimi, eat your heart out.
Well, it's getting there, but it's not perfect by any means. But yes, I started modeling the car for fun.
So I have to ask, what was the process, the thought process that went? I'm gonna work on the what is it? A Dart? Is that what it is? The
It's a Delta 88,
Delta. Yeah,
1985
yeah,
Delta
that
88.
Delta 88. That's what it is. I don't know why I said
Yeah,
Dart. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
What possessed me to want to work on this today?
yeah. I mean, it's not.
Um,
There's not a wrong answer. This isn't a trap. I'm not like
no
setting you up
trap.
for
Okay.
something.
I think for some reason, when I'm trying to get my head into my headspace with 3D modeling, I feel like sometimes you got to get away from one object and model something else, and kind of try to retain or try to repeat what you learned from before and go back and forth,
Mm-hmm.
between two different types of models. So yeah, I just kind of, and also we are kind of in the bar, like for the past month or so, we've been talking about climbing the bar, We've been talking about the bar scene itself. So my head's already there, living there. So I want to start putting more props in there. So the car was next, and then also the bear's going to be the bear's going to show up here pretty soon next.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. And there's a great treasure chest, which
yes, the
um,
treasure chest is like the simplest thing, and I don't even bother tackling that because it's pretty much a box with a little bit of a curvature to the top, So
oh, okay.
not as
All right.
confusing.
Yeah, famous last words
Yeah.
if ever I heard any.
Yeah, I know. And here we go. But yeah, I'm about 50-50 with the Delta 88. I'm glad that you are able to recognize it.
Yeah, absolutely.
That
It
part's
is a
good.
car. Yes, I reckon.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, I have some issues with the model, and I may actually just scrap this one and start it one more time and kind of
Mm-hmm.
just refine it a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
But in general, I mean, it's going okay. Here's the topology. Topology's okay.
So did
But
you
there's some areas where there's some pinching in the windshield that I don't like, so I might
sure.
still tweak a little bit. But again, here's the challenge, though,
Yeah.
Eric, is like I'm trying to make that. Okay, let me pull up the actual image I was modeling for today. So like here's the main one I was
Right,
using.
there's the actual Delta 88, right.
Yeah. I don't want to get too realistic because obviously this is a flat sheeted cartoon.
Sure.
So in my head, I'm trying to reduce the amount of detail that's
Mm-hmm.
in the car, but also keep it in the spirit of the Delta 88 as well. So that's kind of where as I was modeling it, I was kind of doing that and kind of going, well, do I really need to do this or do I really need to do that? Um, Probably, but yeah, I'm not completely happy with it, but I am okay with it.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
I could probably start using this
Yeah, I
um,
mean,
as a model.
from my standpoint, like I'm looking at this going, great, you're done with this one.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
what I need to show you tonight because
Right, because this
in
looks
your
great.
headspace,
This looks great to me.
okay. That makes me feel better because like so for me, see this is why it's important to have a banter back and forth with
Yeah,
that's what I love about animation is
yeah,
because if you're on a team, which is just us right now, um, you can get the conversation going and you don't sit there and you don't have to dilly dally on stuff as long, because if it works, because this car is mainly this is your headspace car, right?
yeah.
When you wrote it, you were specific about having the Delta 88 in the scene. So if you're happy with it, that makes me happy
I
as
from the standpoint of, I mean, I agree 100% with you. Like replicating the actual car 100% would be a fool's errand, and also maybe a copyright issue. As with everything, like we're drawing inspiration from, and it should always
yeah,
stay true to Calamity Jane's reality,
yeah,
right? And so the Delta 88 inspired car that we see here is exactly what it needs to be, a car inspired by something that we, me, I guess, but hopefully you as well are familiar with and get a chuckle out of, right?
mm-hmm,
Um,
mm-hmm,
and this looks great. I think once you throw the tune shader on it,
yep,
and get it swinging from the bar, it realistically, what is it? It's in the entire episode for a sum total of 10 seconds.
yes,
Um,
yes, yeah.
I think
And
it's
that's the thing is like how much processing power do I attach my brain to make this the way it is versus
absolutely,
obviously you spend a lot more spend a lot more time in discussion over Clem, for
yeah,
example, or somebody
absolutely,
has a
right,
speaking role.
right.
But yeah, that makes me feel a little bit better
Yeah, I
hearing
mean, this
your
looks great.
reaction.
Like right
Okay,
away, it looks great. Yeah,
okay, so that's
yeah,
good to know. Like I said, I might tweak a few more things, but yeah, I'm not going to spend too much more time on it.
yeah.
I mean, the general angle for it in the episode is around like that roughly, and it goes
Mm-hmm.
back and forth, something like that roughly, and I think that does a job. Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Yeah,
So great for that. So yes, we do have this, but this is just for me to kind of get my brain muscles going a little bit in 3D space, and yeah, I'm okay with this. I'm cool.
it looks great. Yeah, I get the because a car just in general, not even this car in specific, but cars in general are much simpler than what you're
Yep.
trying to accomplish with Tinsel. I mean, Tinsel
Yes.
is a character,
Yes.
and she has a lot of personality and thought that went into each aspect of her body.
Yes.
And so it's a lot more of a custom job. Whereas it looks like here, even you did the smart thing where you just modeled half the car and mirrored it to generate the
Yep.
other half, which is exactly what you should do,
Yeah.
right?
And which is funny is this is the same technique I'm going to use with Tinsel as well. So when you're asking me why did I pick the card, this is part of it too, is to kind of ease into going back to Tinsel because
Right.
now I feel I have a little bit. I up my experience points about I don't know 5, 10 points. So now I can go back to Tinsel and apply even more stuff and feel more confident with it. And it won't be as much of a terrible stream to watch me just fiddle around with points and yell.
I don't know. I
And,
personally find you yelling at the screen
yeah,
infinitely
no, that's
entertaining.
true. I guess
So
yeah, it's a point of like how masochistic do I want to put myself, torture myself with for half an hour, on screen, whereas just do a privately,
right.
off screen,
So I have a question. Did this start with a single cube that you then extruded into the geometry
Yes.
and?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It did. Pretty much this. So like, let's see. If we look up here in this, I'm using Blender here for anybody.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm covering. Okay, here we go. Go ahead.
We have this as you can see here in this scene collection panel here.
Mm-hmm.
There's a cube, and that cube is actually the car. That's what the orange highlight is. Everything you see for the actual body of the car was molded from one square cube.
That's pretty cool.
And then if I click on this, these are the headlights. So these are actually just cylinders that are just plugged in there. Here's another cylinder, which is the tires, and they're mirrored. Now the tires actually, I kind of did a little bit of modeling to those just enough, because again, I want to put white walls on them because I think again, the reference picture they have white walls on them.
Makes sense.
And then another cylinder, which is the back tires. That's it. So there's really essentially 3 shapes I started with. And the tires were really simple, but yes, this is a series of extrusions and a few cuts in the geometry that we can see here. Hang on a second. Go back to this. You can see the cage, but this started out as a cube, and then I just extruded stuff.
Right. So you just add in the vertices and the edges, and then once you do that, then you can manipulate those edges because you've created a new polygon.
Yes.
Right.
And then on top of that, so while I'm modeling as well, I'm also making materials for reservation for when I want to start doing the toon shading here in the materials panel, which is what we apply to topology for polygons. So that's kind of where we're at with it. But this was a good little jogging / marathon exercise for me to go through, so then I can jump back to Tinsel.
Yeah.
Which is wow. Like, I got a lot of work to do here.
Yeah.
It's fun. That's part of the fun.
Well, it's an interesting, it's an interesting thing that you chose to work on a car, because when I was in school getting a degree in video game programming that I never used, we were forced to take a 3D modeling course, which it's weird. It's youth is wasted on the young. Maybe one of the most true of all colloquialisms or idioms, I guess. It's not really a colloquialism; it's a saying. Because I remember being in that class and going, "Oh, why do we have to take these art classes?" And now I look back on it and I go, "Man, what a missed opportunity that was." That I didn't take it seriously. I did the bare minimum amount of work to pass the class, and the irony of it all, that I didn't even end up using the degree that I pretended, or not pretended, but like naively thought that I wanted, is remarkable. I don't know if that makes sense.
So you're saying that none of that was retained?
I mean, if you put me in front of a computer right now, I don't think I could write a program to say "Hello World" anymore.
But you understand the syntax, right?
Sure, I could write pseudocode easily enough, but that's not going to compile.
Okay.
Yeah, the thing about programming is it's an entire language, right? with a grammar and with a lexicon, with the dictionary. And if you don't use it, it tends to fade, right?
Yeah, that's true.
And that's, I worked really hard at it for 4 years, and I got my degree and graduated and realized very quickly that I was never going to be able to hack it as a programmer.
Mm-hmm.
And my life changed as a result, like rather dramatically. And by not using the languages that I had learned, they just sort of faded in time and were replaced with other languages, other dictionaries and lexicons and jargon. I mean, I know all of the rules of improv and can say sentences that don't mean anything to anybody who doesn't understand improv if I really wanted to, right? Mm-hmm. Because that's the direction my life took. Same with writing and production and things of that nature. So, and I mean, and it's not fair. The having that programming degree did get me my first job in the video game industry, right? And so it was a jumping off point from that perspective. But man, what an expensive diving board that was.
So you're saying, if you were to go back, would you still focus on the same path, or would you try to, because you were chasing it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, ask me again when I figured out everything.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
It's easy to say I would have done things differently, but if I had made different choices, well, I mean, I don't think we'd be sitting here, right? I mean, the reason we're sitting here is because I got that job at Warner Brothers, and I got that job at Warner Brothers because of the degree that I got, right? Mm-hmm. So it's you can't, every decision that you make has consequences, good and bad. And I think the trick, which is obviously easier said than done, is to focus on the good rather than the bad. Some days I'm really good at it, and some days, just like everybody, you're like, oh, God.
Yeah.
But be that as it may, I still, I've always been a relatively technically minded person. I get that, I think, from my father. But I'm not logical enough to be a programmer. I think that's what it is, right? I have the analytical skills. I am technologically minded, but I am a horribly illogical person.
Wait, like, I know you watch Star Trek, so that can't be 100%. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you're being too hard.
Well, I mean, watching Star Trek is more of a geeky thing than a logical thing. So,
but you don't need. But see, you have to have an element of illogical aspects to.
I think what I mean by logic.
You have to, right?
I think by logic, I mean, writing is a lot of intuition and emotion and gut instinct, right?
Yeah.
And what I mean by logic is more analysis of heuristics.
Now, you're getting pretty deep here. Heuristics. I mean, I have to actually kind of look up that in the dictionary.
Basically, it's a fancy word for testing.
Okay.
Programming is basically a series of rules that follow a logical order. If you do this, then this happens. If you do this, then this happens. But they are complicated in the extreme, right? And someone who is logical in the way that they can look at a series of components, a series of heuristics, and go, okay, when you combine all of these together, you can expect this output. Right? That's the kind of logic that I'm really bad at, is taking a bunch of components and going, okay, when I combine them using this set of rules, I know I'm going to get this outcome. The way I always programmed, the way I always would complete assignments is go, it was brute force, basically. All right, I don't know what the outcome is. Test this. Nope, that didn't work. Okay, test this. Nope, that didn't work. Okay, test this. Okay, that got me kind of closer. And so rather than being able to make informed decisions to minimize the work downstream, everything was brute force for me. So I could get things done, but it would take me forever, and it wouldn't be the cleanest, most elegant work, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's not really what you want as a programmer. You want quick and elegant, and I was neither of those things. So
I see.
yeah, and it's because it's just the way my brain processes data. I tend to look at things differently than a programmer needs to be able to look at things. Pure and simple.
It's funny because it to me, and again, I'm being naive, and I'm probably completely. I know I'm completely uninformed, but I mean, I use like I use like visual scripting to do stuff, and it helps me understand how programming works. But it also, to me, opens up the idea that programming can be just as creative as any other endeavor. I mean, it's just
Oh, without a
like
doubt, yeah.
manipulate the
Yeah,
language, just like with writing. When
yeah.
you write, you're manipulating language to tell a story. Programming can do the same thing. It's just learning a type of language, and then how do you manipulate it to do X, Y, Z, whatever you want it to do.
Yeah. Well,
So it
here's
seems
here's the
like,
thing about yeah. Here's the thing about writing though is I mean yeah there's a lot of parallels between writing a computer program and writing a story. The thing about it though is that writing a story you may even have an ending in mind, but there are 1,001 ways that you can come to that ending that are all equally valid and equally useful.
Yeah, sure.
And while in programming there are definitely multiple ways to come to a particular solution, generally speaking, there is a most efficient way, right? And in fact, there's whole sections of programming that are really devoted to just making things more efficient, making things use less computer, clock cycles to complete tasks, right? Shaving a millisecond off of an instruction here or there, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And in writing, that's not the case. If that were the case, then George R.R. Martin would not have a career. If it was about the most efficient, the most streamlined, then there would be no place in his books describing these vast arrays of food and all of the ingredients required to make those food, right?
Yeah.
And so it's just a different thought process, and also too, like in programming, generally speaking, you come into programming with a problem that you're trying to solve, right? And this is strictly programming. Designers obviously are built around experimentation, and they're using tools that programmers have already written, and then with programming support, they experiment. But in programming, you generally have a task, a problem, a challenge that you are looking for a solution to. Whereas a lot of writers, myself included, generally speaking, you have an idea. You have a vague, ephemeral concept of a story, and you just start putting words on the page. And sometimes it evaporates. Sometimes it falls apart. But then sometimes it coalesces into something, and then you get your story. And that's not the right way to write. It's not the wrong way to write. It's just a way to write. And if you started writing a computer program without knowing what you wanted it to do, you'd never get anywhere, right? J.R.R. Tolkien rewrote the first 3 chapters of Lord of the Rings, I think 5 times or something, before he finally found the tenor and the voice and the story, gelled in his mind enough that he actually was able to write the rest of the book. But he didn't, as far as I know, have a really firm, rigid outline, or even really knew how the story was going to end when he started writing it.
Well, yeah. So, sadly, the writers of the show didn't know how it was going to end either.
Yeah. Well,
no spoilers here, but I'm just saying. Oh my gosh.
Well, I don't think George R.R. Martin knows how Game of Thrones is going to end yet, but J.R.R. Tolkien did manage to finish Lord of the Rings at least.
Yes, he did, and that was a satisfactory ending.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. For sure. A great many endings. Moving on from my long treatise about programming, I remember when I went to go see Return of the King in theaters, and I knew that the last chapter of the book, or the last section of the book, was a great many endings. Right? I think that's the title of one of the chapters before we get to the Scouring of the Shire, and so I knew that there were going to be all of these like endings as one storyline after another is brought to a conclusion, right?
Yeah.
But the teenagers who were sitting in front of me at the time clearly were not aware that this was about to happen. So, like, Frodo and Sam get saved by the Eagles, and they wake up back in Minas Tirith, and everybody's happy, and it goes to slow motion, and then the camera, it all fades to black, and the kids think the movie's over, and they stand up to leave, but then it fades in, and now Aragorn is being, the coronation for Aragorn to be king of Gondor is happening, and they go, "Oh, okay." So they sit down again, right? And so then that whole thing happens, and then it fades to black again. They're like, "Oh, the movie's over," and they get up and they start walking out, and then it fades up as the hobbits are heading back to the Shire. Like, what the fuck?
Jeez.
And they sit down again,
funny.
and they watch that, and then it fades to black, and they're like, "Okay, finally," and they get up and leave, and then it fades up again, and now it's like the ending when Bilbo shows up, and they all go to the Western Shores. But by this time, the teenagers had enough. They were done with the endings of this movie, and they just get up and they leave, and there's still like 5 minutes left in the movie. And I'm thinking to myself as I'm watching them leave, I'm like, man, it would have been hilarious if they had tried to put the Scouring of the Shire in this movie. Those teenagers would never have made it to that.
That's hilarious. Yeah. You and I think we went and saw one of the Lord of the Rings movies back in our Warner Brothers days. We had the screening thing, whatever. They had the deal where you can go see it.
I mean, Return of the King came out before I was down in LA, because that was in 2000.
Oh, really? I didn't
2003,
see it,
I think.
Oh,
I don't remember
okay.
when Return of the King came out.
I don't know. Everything kind of blurs together because I know you and I waited in line to get a Nintendo Wii and stuff.
Yeah. We stood in a lot of lines together. Yeah, Return of the King was 2003. Yeah.
Okay.
We stood in line for too long to buy a Wii. It cured me of that habit. I've never stood in line for a video game again. Well, that's not entirely true, but it's mostly true. I haven't stood in line to buy a video game related product without being able to bill time against it.
yeah, it's funny. I think that's the beauty of getting older,
right?
Get wiser.
You
learn that now you don't need to do it.
Yeah, exactly. I don't do it for free anymore. I think, did we stand in line? No, I don't think we stood in line for Superman Returns. That was not a movie worth standing in line for.
I don't never admit that I would stand in line for that anyway. So, no, it never happened.
Yeah, no. It was. I don't remember what it was anymore, but we have stood in a lot of lines together.
Speaking of Superman Returns, I know we're kind of winding down on our stream.
Sure.
We need to bookmark this because.
Yeah, we can't end on Superman Returns. Like, what a.
We can't, but I'm going to even make it worse because I haven't even seen it yet. But why Zack Snyder? Why Zack Snyder Justice League? I just realized now that is it a re-edit of an existing?
Well, it's not just a re-edit. Like he took a 2.5 hour long movie and turned it into a 4 hour long.
Why?
Movie.
It wasn't even enjoyable the first time.
I don't know. It's. The internet is part of it.
If we had a huge following, I know I'd be getting flambéed right now because I know a lot of people probably love the Zack Snyder film.
I'm old enough to remember when he unfortunately, for horrible reasons, had to drop out of the film.
I mean, that's terrible. Human to human, that's awful.
It's just awful. Yeah. And then when Joss Whedon took over, I remember the internet going, "Oh, thank God! We were so worried this movie was going to be bad, but Joss Whedon's in charge, and now it'll be fine." And the movie came out, and it was just not good. I mean, it just wasn't good.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden, all this crappy stuff around Joss Whedon is going on, and Zack Snyder comes back in, and everybody's like, "We want to see what Zack Snyder originally had planned." Because maybe we were wrong all along, and I don't know where all this goodwill came for him, because I thought Zack Snyder had largely been on the outs for a while between Sucker Punch and Batman versus Superman and the mixed feelings about Man of Steel, and it's unclear to me why he got so much goodwill to make this happen, but I don't know.
But yeah, we can maybe
I make no
talk.
promises to watch that movie, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, same here. I don't know if I can do it. And maybe
4 hours is a
maybe
lot. Like,
it is a big commitment for something I didn't like the first time around. I
right.
don't know if I can. Even with what you explained it, how you explained it, I don't know if it's enough for me to justify going back to watch it. Because again, I'm cantankerous. I don't like. I'm again one of the few out there in the world that does not like this rendition of Aquaman. I'm huge. But I have a huge bias towards Peter David's attempt with Aquaman back in the '90s. I like that version of Aquaman.
Is that the one where he got his hand cut off, or?
Yeah, that's the one where his hand got cut off.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the version that's depicted in the movies is just some cool jock guy.
He's a surfer
There's
dude.
no
Yeah.
personality to Arthur at all. Like,
No.
what happened?
Right.
You know, there's so much material to work off of from Peter David's stuff.
Right. And
Whatever.
And I'm also not like the biggest Ben Affleck fan either,
Yeah.
and he really is the star of that movie. And
Yeah.
I will fully admit though that the Batman costume is amongst my favorite costume of any interpretation of the Batman costume
Yeah, it is pretty
for
cool,
the movie.
yes.
I think that's really awesome. But that's as far as I'm willing to give on that
So
front.
for me, Wonder Woman is what keeps the movie afloat. Like like
Yeah.
for some reason they struck gold with
Gal Gadot, yeah.
Yeah.
Or
She's
Gadot.
terrific.
Is it Gadot or Gadot? I always thought
I
it was
don't know.
Gadot.
I've heard of Godot. I thought.
I've heard it both
Again,
ways. I've heard it both
yeah.
ways actually. So,
Yeah.
but anyways, we're like
Anyway.
6 minutes over.
Yeah, we went over. That's what happens when two comic book nerds get
No,
together,
it's
start
just it's
talking.
dangerous.
So,
There's rabbit holes. There's rabbit holes and rabbit holes.
yeah.
Um,
Anyway, but yeah, we're I kind of started pouring more tinsel here. We'll keep up. We'll keep it up for next week. And,
Yeah, she's starting to take shape a little bit.
yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. So,
So,
all right. Well, we'll end it here. Good night, everybody. Stay safe. And yeah, hopefully we're almost through this thing. It seems like.
yeah, there's a little bit of optimism, but I'm always cautiously.
Yeah, I know,
optimistic.
exactly.
I never full on go optimistic.
Never
but
hurts to
cautious.
be cautiously optimistic,
Yes,
but
cautious is always a good.
that's
safe way to go.
it's a better position than we have been for a long time. So I'll
Yeah.
take cautious optimism.
Yeah.
All right,
Cool,
James.
man.
Yeah.
All right.
Until next week.
All right.
All
Stay
right.
safe, everybody.
Yeah. Stay
Bye.
safe. Good night.